Is it possible to use words, just words, to become hypnotically persuasive? What's up, everyone? I want to welcome you to this video. And today, I want to just talk about hypnotic language and hypnotic persuasion. Now, I want you to imagine this for a moment. Why do people get lawyers? Like, let's say someone was in trouble in, let's say in the US, right? Like we see enough TV shows, etc. But you know, when and you see these courtrooms. But if someone gets in trouble, why do they get a lawyer? Why have a lawyer? Typically, like, why doesn't the person just, for example, say what happened, what actually happened? Like, why don't they just say their side of the story and that's it? Well, what we need to do, or the reason they get a lawyer, is because they want someone to present the information in a way that is more acceptable to the other party, to the judge, to the people that are that are judging the situation, right? The reason you have a lawyer is because they take your information and they make it a bit more acceptable. They increase your chances of getting the result that you want to get. And that's I mean, that's just a little bit of a metaphor of where we're going to be going today. So today, as I said, I'm going to be talking about understanding hypnotic language. And I'm going to be talking through something called the Milton Model. It's an NLP thing. But ultimately, we're talking about how to use hypnotic language. Well, ultimately, and understanding the origins of hypnotic language. Now, this is so powerful because if you understand hypnotic language, you will have the power to have others feel a certain way, behave a certain way, or act a certain way. So it is such a powerful skill when it comes to influence, persuasion, speaking, coaching, whatever it is. When you are able to use hypnotic language to be able to hypnotically persuade someone, it is so powerful. So, and today I'm just going to be mainly talking about the origins. This is going to be part of a series of videos that I'm going to be doing. But I want you to think of this in our everyday lives, right? Like this is something that you see all the time. Like there are PR people, you know, like and when a company does something, they have PR people that take what has happened and they write it in a certain way so that it doesn't sound so bad. You know, like you have PR people, countries have PR people, you know, like in order to get people to feel a certain way about something versus feel a different way. When you have an excellent speaker, they take something that you may already know, but they present it to you in a way that is more acceptable, that gets you to take action, that gets you to feel a certain way. Or you have a motivational speaker. If you have an effective and amazing salesperson, it's the same thing. So you've seen this in many areas of our lives. You've experienced it, whether you called it hypnotic language or not, etc. Whether you've done it and you didn't even know that you were using hypnotic language is also very, very common, because what hypnotic language does is just take things that occur naturally in real life, makes you aware of them, and gives you the ability to do more of it in a shorter space of time. So we've all experienced this. We've all heard people use lots of these language patterns, etc., but never realized that they were using it. Even when I did sales, I was using it and I didn't even realize, but I didn't know the extent of everything that you could be doing. Now, let me give you a story of how this came about, or how these language patterns that I'm going to be discussing with you, which is called the Milton Model, how it came about. In the 70s, you know, there was a handful of therapists that were successful. And here's what I mean. You know, typically what would happen is someone would go to a psychiatrist, they'd have a problem, they'd go to a psychiatrist, and the person would go for years and years and years with the same problem. And every single time you go to a psychiatrist, it would be like, Tell me about your past. And they just repeat. They keep repeating the problem, but they weren't helping the person actually overcome the problem. They weren't helping the person to transform. And so in the 70s, there were a couple of therapists that used to get amazing results with this. And this is like Fritz Perls and Virginia Satir. They're two of the therapists that were getting amazing results whenever they worked with anybody. Every single time they worked with someone, they'd get a result. And so two people, John Grinder and Dr. Richard Bandler, they basically went and studied these guys, and they said, oh my God, these therapists, they're getting results. What are they doing? What are they doing? And they started looking into what were these successful therapists doing. And they came up with a model called the meta model, right? I've done a couple of videos about this. You can check them out on my YouTube channel. But this is how NLP was born, the whole science of your mind, etc. But they came up with a model which was about questioning people in order to uncover information very, very effectively. Hey, Rima, great to see you. Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't seen you in ages. It's so good to see you. Thanks for coming on. So, when Dr. Richard Bandler and John Grinder, when they created this book, they created this model, it gave them a lot of exposure, it gave them a lot of fame, etc. They became well known for helping to discover how to help people by asking a whole number of questions. And it put them on the map, it put NLP on the map. But then one day, someone came to them and said, yeah, it's great what you guys have said. It's absolutely fascinating. It's amazing. And we're really happy with the work that you've done, the research that you've done. But we wanted to say that there's one guy out there who's actually breaking all the rules that you talked about. He's not asking people all these questions. In fact, he's doing so much of the opposite of what you guys have said. And so we're not too sure, is this the only way that you help people? And so Dr. Richard Bandler and John Grinder were like, wait, we need to find out more about this. We need to know what this guy is doing. And so, hey, Bruno, great to see you, brother. It's been ages. I miss you, man. Great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. So Richard Bandler and John Grinder, they were like, okay, we need to know more. So they went, they tracked him down, and they tried to get an appointment with him. And this is the guy. The guy whose name is Milton Erikson. And Milton Erikson was famous for, he wasn't using questions when he was helping people. He was telling stories. He was talking to people's unconscious, and he was getting them to take action. In fact, Milton Erikson was probably the father of modern hypnotherapy. And so he would, versus getting information, taking people out of the problem, he would just speak to people and install different strategies in their mind, just literally by telling stories and speaking very, very persuasively. Now, just a little bit about Milton Erikson. He when he was growing up, he had polio, and so he was confined to a wheelchair. So he observed people, he observed human behavior at such a level and studied it at such a level that he became a master of language and understanding patterns that utilize the way that the mind thinks. So when John Grinder and Richard Bandler, they studied him. They looked at, what is this guy doing when he speaks, when he tells stories? How is he using language? And they broke it down. They were like, okay, he's done this here, he's done that there. And they broke it down, and they created something called the Milton model. Now, the Milton model is a way of using language that becomes a little bit more hypnotic, which is basically using how the brain thinks, how the mind thinks. So let's get into that. But before I do, great, Bruno. Missing you, brother, man. All right, cool. So let's talk about the Milton model. First of all, let me talk to you about the power of this, and we're going to do a couple of videos where I talk through the different elements of this Milton model. But let me just talk to you through some of the power of this. You see, at Harvard University in the 70s, they did a study. Now, you may remember back in the day, we had big libraries. Like, people used to go to libraries when they wanted information. They didn't, you know, Google wasn't really a big thing. You wanted information, you'd go to the library. And then when you go to the library, you'd find the information. And it wasn't just oh, okay, let me just print this. You'd find the information. You'd be like, oh, this is very useful. And you'd go to to stand in line at the photocopy machine. And when you're in line at the photocopy machine, by the way, there's a lot of people in line at the photocopy machine because that's how people got information, right? So what they did in the 70s, where they did a study, because there were such long lines at the photocopy machine, they were like, let's see what it would take, like, to cut into the line, right? As we say in the Gulf, we say wasta, you know, try and cut in, right? A little bit of wasta. So they had 3 scenarios. The first bunch of researchers, they'd go into the line at the beginning of the line, and they say, hi, I have may I cut in the line because I'm in a rush. I'm in a hurry. I have to get somewhere. May I cut into the line because I'm in a rush? Okay. They had they had another group of people that went to the beginning of the line and said, hey, can I cut in the line? Just that. Hey, can I cut in the line? Okay. So here's the thing. When someone just said, hey, can I cut in the line? They were successful about 60% of the time. Okay. Just no reason, no whatever. When people went and said, hey, can I cut in the line because I'm in a rush? They were successful 94% of the time. All right. So when you have an excuse, 94% successful. When you don't have nothing, it's 60% successful. But here's the thing. And here's how powerful hypnotic language can be. And a group went to the beginning of the line and they said, excuse me, can I cut in the line because I have to make photocopies? By the way, everybody in this line has to make photocopies. Literally that's the reason people are standing there. It is the worst excuse in the whole world. Because I have to make photocopies. Yani, what do you think everyone here is doing? You know, kind of thing. But guess what? So when there was no excuse, 60% successful. When when someone was in a rush, 94% successful. How successful do you think people were when they just said, hi, can I cut in the line because I have to make copies? Worst excuse in the world. How successful do you think they were? Here it is. They were successful 93% of the time. What? 1% less. 1% less than like the best reason in the world. 1% less. Just by using one word. See, people think hypnosis or hypnotic language is something magical. It's not. It's just understanding the way that the mind thinks. And that's what the Milton model uncovered, because what they discovered is that when you use something, this in Milton model language, we call this like a complex equivalence, right? I have to make model copies, which means that I need to cut in the line, kind of thing. Like it doesn't need to make sense, but just because it's there, the brain becomes more satisfied. And that's why they became more persuasive. And here's the reality. So let me just show this to you, right? So these were the three scenarios. Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine? Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I have to make copies? Worst excuse in the world. And excuse me, I have 5 pages. Can I use the Xerox machine because I'm in a rush? And 60% was no reason at all. 93% was the worst reason. 94% success was the best reason. It's ridiculous. But this is the power of hypnotic language. That is just one word. That's just one phrase. And it's a low risk. There's a low risk item, which is why the success rate is so high on just one word. However, it's just important to see that this is just one. When we start to stack things and combine and everything, you become a lot more persuasive. And that's how hypnotic language and the Milton model actually works. And you know, that example is something we call a complex equivalence. I don't want to go into all of these different things, but this is what the Milton model is made of. These are all the different areas, and I'll do a video on each of them, but I wanted to just give you in this video an understanding of what hypnotic language is, like how it works in the foundations. And then to understand that we've just kind of covered just one element of it. There's multiple elements that I'll be doing in a series of videos. But hopefully this will give you an understanding of some of the origins of where hypnotic language came from, how it was created, and how it sort of works, because it's not like crazy rocket science. It just utilizes something that our brain likes. Our brain likes to connect, likes to create meaning. And if we think, oh, okay, he's cutting in because, you know, he needs to make copies, that's, you know, we've satisfied the need for meaning in our mind, and because we've satisfied, we are more persuasive. And this is what it's all about. How do you become more persuasive? By using little bits of language that satisfy the way that we think. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I appreciate you all. And I will catch you on another video very soon, where I will start to go through, watch out for the rest of the series, where I'll be going through these different elements of language patterns in terms of the Milton model. So thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you on another video very soon. Peace out, one love. See you soon.